Let me congratulate the Hitex X, the founder Brahmamji, and the entire team for creating such a wonderful platform to deliberate and discuss about the current happenings in the field of education in general and also higher education in specific. And the topic which was identified for the discussion for the last 3 days is the artificial intelligence and how it is really making an impact in the quality of higher education. And friends, let me put before you, there is a crisis of confidence in higher education today. The crisis in confidence because the kind of outcomes that higher education is actually focusing are not really meeting the needs of organizations. The industry says graduates are not having adequate knowledge, skills, and competencies. The society says our graduates are not really having any morals, ethics, values. And we could see these kind of happenings actually occurring in the society at the larger one. And we at higher education need to hold the responsibility because we always proudly say there is a demographic dividend. We have a large number of youth in this country, and we have the responsibility to hone them, to make use them as the potential transformers of this country. Therefore, what we need to do at higher education system in India, looking into the kind of scope, the scale, we all aware that we have almost 1,200 plus universities in this country. We have 50,000 colleges in this country. And almost the gross enrollment ratio is about 30 to 33%, and we are aiming to make it by 50%. It is not mere the numbers, but the responsibility of the higher education institution are also multiplied in terms of taking a look about what we have been doing it, and also look into what we are expecting in next 10, 15 years, 20 years, with an aim to make India as a global knowledge power, which is the fundamental vision of this education policy that we have in the country. So keeping these things in mind, the higher education has three important verticals that every institution need to focus. One is the teaching and learning process, the curriculum, the updatation, and the kind of the methodology that you bring into the teaching learning process is something the higher education needs to focus. The second most important thing is the research. Unlike any school education or any other systems of education, higher education holds a responsibility of creating the new body of knowledge. We are having that responsibility of creating that knowledge domain through our research, and this research has to be impactful research. And our Commissioner Higher Education said rightly, we also have the third vertical, which is the social responsibility. Therefore, how to meet these three verticals, the great responsibilities of higher education in the present context? When I talk about the present context, it is disruptive, with the emerging technologies. It is largely globalized. There is a future which cannot be located, which cannot be identified. Therefore, how we can really position our educational policies and practices in a more progressive way, whereby in near future we'll be able to see the progress. Friends, I bring three important C's today in front of you. If we want to transform any education, the first and the foremost important aspect is the competency. The competencies of individuals need to be focused. And therefore, today the curriculum is refined in terms of the skill development, entrepreneurship development, by providing internships, on-job training. So all these things have become the integral part of the curriculum design. Therefore, there is a need to have partnership with the industrial organizations. Therefore, there is a report which was released by UNESCO in 2019, the futures of education. They did not talk about one future. They talk about the multiple futures that we can envision in the future to come. And they say education necessarily be a social contract. The moment you talk about social contract, we need to come out of our rigid systems of education, and we need to extend partnership with the larger stakeholders in the society, and therefore we can make educational process more relevant and meaningful to our young youth. Therefore, the teaching and learning process, the curriculum, the relevance of the curriculum, and the mode of delivery with an element of flexibility, I think all these things are very much necessary that we need to practice, implement in its real spirit into higher education system. Friends, the second most important thing is the research work. This task is given exclusively to higher education because what we teach, unlike the school system, what we teach in our universities necessarily be generated through our research work. Therefore, the question comes to us, are we really making any effort to make our research more impactful? Whether we are really generating the kind of knowledge which is essential to meet the global challenges. I think, unfortunately, we are not up to the mark in terms of research. Therefore, the teaching vertical and the research vertical cannot be seen in isolation. They are very much integrated. What we need, teaching researchers and researching teachers. And how the research and teaching can be well integrated through the curriculum and through the process. And the third important element is what you call as the character building. The character building is an essential part of any education system. And higher education system plays a role because it is the gateway to the world of work. And it is these individuals who create that humane society. Therefore, the ethics, the morals, the values, which are given top priority in educational processes, will really make the character building of the higher education students. And when they go into the larger society, they will be able to discharge their responsibilities in a greater context. And the third important is the character, the citizenship. We need to have the nation builders. We need to have the visionary youth who can take this country to the greater heights in the years to come. Therefore, the policy really states we need not only the citizens of this country, but we also want our youth to take leadership at the global canvas. Therefore, they use the word education for global citizenship. So how our youth can realize their importance to exercise their leadership at the global canvas, and we have to realize that we have the power to leverage that. So friends, keeping the three important C's, whether you talk about competency building, whether you talk about the character building, whether you talk about the citizenship we need higher educations need to rule it into their process. I think artificial intelligence play a major role, and this can really contribute to design the curriculum, the assessment, and also the engagement of the students into the learning process. So friends, finally, I would like to say that any learning process, whether you talk about the school level, you talk about the higher education level, must have three important E's. One is the engagement of the students. No more institutions can be passive institutions in giving the information from one side, and students are not able to assimilate what is the essence of that information in their life and living. Therefore, the engagement is a very, very important thing which the institutions need to redesign the curriculum and also the practices. And the second one is the enjoyment. The learning has to be joyful. Learning cannot be a kind of an element to disturb the social and emotional well-being of the students. So today what's happening, if you see the statistics, the kind of emotional outburst of the students in higher education system, not really coping up with the pressures, expectations, not really coping up with the failures. There are lot many unwanted actions are taking place. Therefore, friends, how to make the learning more joyful along with the meaningful is also important concept that we need to think about. So the first is the engagement, the second is enjoyment, and the third is empowerment. Higher education students need to be empowered to take their decisions in life and also to choose the path of their progress and development. And friends, the AI is something, a tool in our hand, which helps you to get the information, to take independent decisions, to take data-driven the ideas, and individuals can really become innovators. I think the only thing that we need to make is to create that opportunity, that context in the institutions of higher education, and that is the beginning of bringing any transformation in the system. So to end my presentation, I remember the purpose of any business is to develop the consumers, develop the customers. And the purpose of any higher education is to create the learners. I think in the context of AI, in the context of lifelong learning, in the context of micro-credentials, in the context of the all through the learning and access to information, we must create lifelong learners, and that is the purpose of higher education. Thank you so much.